I was born in 1945 in a small town in North Carolina. I was only 20 years old when I entered the Vietnam War. It was 1965 when President Lyndon ordered U.S. troops over to Vietnam. My lieutenant briefed my platoon on the war. He said that communist guerrillas in South Vietnam, who were known as the Viet Cong, started the war. They wanted to take over the democratic South Vietnam government, and they were backed by communist North Vietnam. South Vietnam's government was quickly diminishing, which led to President Lyndon dispatching the first U.S. troops. Life in Vietnam was difficult. The weather was miserable, and I don't think any of us thought it would be this hard. It was hot and humid, and there were also monsoons that never seemed to quit. We would hold our helmet out and it would fill with water in a matter of minutes. The amount of death we saw was horrifying. Every day we would see civilians, guerrilla soldiers, and our own soldiers lying dead. The guerrilla fighters weren't fair. They planned sneak attacks and set booby traps. The only thing we could do in that situation was protect ourselves. It was every man for himself. The war was emotionally draining. We had no idea which villages were good and which were enemies. We had no trust. Our morale was low from dealing with these conditions. After fighting in the war for 3 years, there was finally a turning point, but it wasn't for the better. The Viet Cong simultaneously attacked 40 towns in South Vietnam. This offense became known as the Tet Offense. This proved to us that the enemy was stronger than we thought it was. When word was brought back to the U.S., President Johnson decided he didn't want to escalate the war any longer, so he made a negotiation. We were there for another year until President Nixon took office, when he slowly started to withdraw us from Vietnam. When we were allowed to come home, we were expecting a cheerful welcome. Instead, we were welcomed back by a hateful crowd. I fought this war because I thought I was doing the right thing by serving my country. What did I do to deserve this treatment? My platoon's lieutenant said it was because we were part of a war that was impossible to win. Billions of dollars were spent on the war, which led to inflation, and it destroyed America's myth of invincibility, which tore our nation apart. In my opinion, I'm glad I served my country, even though some people disagree. The war may not have been necessary, but it can be used as a reminder for future leaders of what not to do.